Do recording right now. Make sure it's working. Oh, so this will record straight to an MP4. That's pretty cool. And we're going to be starting in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Coach Cameron's podcast. I'm here with Greg Bennett from Oregon. So Greg and I kind of hooked up a little bit based on various podcasts. Greg runs a podcast. So Greg, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you're currently doing in the game of soccer in Oregon?
So I, sorry, trying to get over a little bit of a throat cough here. But so I been coaching competitive soccer 7 years now. Started coaching when I was a little bit younger. When my first daughter was born, my oldest, she's 15 now. So I got into it. I played for like 20 years, but basically how I got into it really was the volunteer coach that was coaching her had absolutely no idea what he was doing. Didn't have equipment, didn't have anything. So I ended up just, helping him out and ended up taking over the rec team. And from that point on, I just started coaching rec. And then we got into the club side of it. And as that happened, I started going in and getting my license and realized I was like, hey, man, just because I was a player, I'm like, I really enjoy coaching soccer, and felt that the kids needed to know a little bit more about, soccer as a game aspect. And so started getting my licensing. From that point on, I ended up working with the Timbers youth department, which I still currently am. I was the DOC, the director of coaching for Salem, Oregon's RTC program, which is the Regional Training Center. Then I worked with the Thorns side of RTC here in Salem. And and now I'm just a competitive coach now, looking at trying to do the ODP side of soccer, which is the Olympic developmental program over here. And that's really about it. That's just how kind of I got into it. It was really just because of my kids and wanted them to, really have an idea about what soccer really is and how to go about it.
So and the reason I'm having a podcast with you is you reached out to me and it seemed like you had similar beliefs as I do. And I'm trying to get in many conversations as possible with as many people that are willing to find a way to change what we're doing, because what we're doing right now with U.S. soccer, it's not working. We're not getting better as a country. I see the same players year in, year out. And when we speak of the women's side, it's the same. It's the same. I see no improvement. I see more athletic kids, but I do not see improvement in the game. What's going on in Oregon that you're witnessing?
I think it's the same thing. We've got a lot of we almost have more coaches that want to coach. And I think it's kind of the same thing that I'm seeing in other areas and other podcasts I've listened to, is we have a lot of coaching, but the coaching to me seems like it's more about themselves to a certain point where they're trying to get a status of themselves. There's a lot of coaches that are not even developed. And as me, I'm still developing as a coach. But they don't know the system. They don't know what I see. They don't see the developing side of things. I see more, they're all about that kind of that win-win mentality in a sense, and not really educating the kids at the level that they're at. For instance, I mean, U7s, that's 13 years old, actually, 12 and 13 years old. Some of the girls can't even properly pass a ball. They can't even receive a ball. They can't even ping a ball 25 yards,
Yeah, that's a big pet peeve of mine. You see it at the professional level too. And I cringe every time I see this weird technique of trapping and passing the ball. I mean, even on the national team, it's just goofy, and it's years of neglect, because we have clubs everywhere that they win because they got some fast kids up front. They move the ball wide, they serve the ball down the line, and then they run really fast, and then they run full speed into you. and there's no thought process other than they have to win on Saturday.
Yep.
And they're not going to fix the technique because they're selfish or or just don't care. I have no idea what's going on. Soccer's very strange. I'm known as a technical coach. I teach technique, and because that's far as I can go.
Yeah.
In the youth, that's far as I can go. I'm like, what am I teaching them tactics for? They can't even trap the ball.
Yep.
And I get in trouble a lot because if I see a player that tries out for me at Phoenix College, or they come to, back in the day when I was doing club, I've been removed from club for a while, self-removed, but I'll see a kid and they'll come from some huge expensive club and they can't trap the ball properly. And I ask who your coach is, and they'll tell me who the coach is. And I say, go get your freaking money back. You didn't learn a dang thing. I'm like, how do you not know how to trap the ball? It just bothers the living daylights out of me. But
I agree with that. I mean, I think it's you have kids who are special, as in talent wise. They're just born very athletic, but they've never really honed their skills. And I feel like sometimes coaching, some of those coaches don't really put that athletic ability and really hone in on, let's work on the development side. Let's work on corrective passing, corrective receiving, your hips, everything that comes along with the basics of soccer. But I see a lot of, hey, let's get it out to our wings. Let's get it up to the fastest player, and we can put it up over their back line, and you run and you score. I mean, that's just a lot of what I see. And I don't think that's creative soccer. And it doesn't really, and creative by the coach, creative by the player and the team. There's just I don't see any creativity. And soccer's, you got to be creative. You have to.
Yeah, I was watching U.S. play Spain yesterday, and U.S. wins 1-0. But Spain look amazing. Like I know Spain's not funded well at all, but they're able to put on a product that is pretty darn good. I mean, Spain's possession was ridiculous. Spain just didn't have that killer instinct like the U.S. team has. But it's scary to watch those girls or women from Spain to be able to receive the ball, be under pressure with three players, dribble into new spaces to find the next pass. Where if you really think about it, there's no drill. There's nothing you can say on the sideline to get a player to deal with as many different situations as soccer presents. So I think I don't know what the solve is to fix this mess, other than U.S. soccer needs to just crumble and go away and we start over. Is that we have to somehow convince the people in this country to really put an emphasis on the kids getting better at home. They need to develop technique. They need to find a way to have a little more passion about the game versus, I want to play on this team because we're going to go to this tournament and we're going to travel and we're going to hang out and all this stuff. And that's a nice reward. I just wish I wish coaches would just, like, kids come in, athletic or not, and be unified in it. And they're missing skill. I'm like, you're not good enough, even though they probably could score 3-4 goals on the weekend because they're fast and athletic, and punish them. Say, no, your technique's not there yet. You're not ready to be in this game, and force the soccer community to work with the ball and develop, because technique you can learn. You could, if you're willing to put in the time.
Oh, guaranteed.
There's only so much you can do and I can do as far as developing players. We're only going to see them, say, Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday, or whatever your schedule is. It's the stuff they do at home and have I mean, you see in every sports. Gymnasts train 4 or 5 hours a day. Baseball players are nuts. They go all day, all night, and then they go batting cages. All same thing. Where's the disconnect with soccer? Why aren't they putting the work in? I have no idea.
I think it's one of those things too. It's like not America's sport, it's, even though it's been around the longest, I think you got to get people who have the right mentality, who want to get in and coach it. answer this question. And so I feel like also one thing is that we have what I kind of like splinter cells. And by that meaning, we have so many clubs. One club starts, then another club starts, and then you get players who bounce from club to club to club to club to club because they don't like what they're getting at one club. So they go to another club and they're like, well, I don't like what I'm getting at that club. And I feel like they're never really in one area enough. I mean, we just had a new club that just opened up here in Oregon, BCS, which is Bridge City Soccer. And it is a club that is run by all females. Shannon Box, one of the 99ers, she helped start this club, and she's, I think, the president of this club. And we have a couple other high level coaches, female coaches, which is it's really good to see, but it's another club that just got implemented. And now we have a lot of players bouncing from different clubs. And sometimes I feel like it's almost, you don't really get where's the quality at? You're bouncing around for so many clubs that are you really getting the quality? I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm asking is, what do you think about all these other clubs and maybe in Arizona? Do you see like multiple clubs just trying to form because they're trying to be the next best thing?
It's nonstop. Arizona's probably the worst from what I hear. We have new club like every day. There's a new club trying to come in. But here's where I see the problem. I don't mind players jumping around. I believe in freedom. Mm-hmm. Go play wherever you want. Here's where I have the problem is all these clubs are selling like, oh, we're part of DA. We're part of ECNL. We play in regional league. We do this, we do that. And they get sold and they get sold and they get sold. And competition's eliminated. So we have a bunch of clubs that would like to compete, but they're not allowed to compete because they're not allowed to play at certain level. When I played youth in Arizona in the 90s, there's one state champion, one region champion, and then 4 people went to nationals and had one national title. So everyone had the opportunity to be developed. And there was a lot of players developed during that era. And I'll give an example. Santos, they developed more players from the 75 and 76 year of birth. That's where you got Pablo Mastroni. That's where you got Evan Whitfield, who played for Chicago Fire played in the Olympics with the national team, went to I think Yale or Duke, and then Pablo Mastroni. Actually, Pablo I think went to Duke. Ryan Turner went to Notre Dame. I mean, they had like 10 players that went on to not only play at Division I, which we never saw that in Arizona back in the day. Just so many in a small little club like Santos. I was always fascinated with that group, but they did something different. They trained 5 days a week, 7 days a week, but they trained as a team 5 days a week, and they just dribbled. That's it. I went to some Santos practices. I'm like, I don't get it. He just said, cut, and you just did this every flipping day, and then you played on Saturday, and then you played on Sunday, and then you started the process over again, and it was rigorous, and it produced players. And then it became a business, and then all these clubs started popping up. And then everyone's trying to hold on to players because it's about, stock, how much money they can be bringing in, and paying coaches ridiculous amount of money. And then because everyone's scared to show their product, if there's, it's attack to me on the Hispanic community here in Phoenix, is they don't want to play the top teams over here in the Hispanic community, other than they want to take from them. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the problem I see. But I like competition. I just don't like the fact that teams have to hide. I'll give you another example. I coach this team called Hammers, and 96 Hammers, and we are really good. We're very technical. We dictated the pace of the game. We would never give up the ball, and if we did, we would find a way to get the ball back, but we slow it down to a snail's pace because that was the speed of play we could go, because we couldn't run with most teams. Yeah. And we were beating the top teams in the state, exception of one. We wanted to play the Sereno team, but they wouldn't play us. You couldn't find them. They only played out of state. They wouldn't play Arizona teams. Why? They did that to hide. So we entered their tournament, or they wanted us to enter their tournament. I said, no, we're not going to tournament unless we get to play your top team. So they said, yeah, okay, we'll let you play the top team, but the way they structured it, we had to play back-to-back games to play them
Oh,
on their first game. I mean, back-to-back. I said, I'll take it. I took it. We only lost 2-0, and I just wanted to see what it was so special.
yeah.
I had to find creative ways to play teams, which is pathetic, versus have a true state cup, a true national championship, but it's gone. We have like 3-4 different national championship runs. It's fake. It's not real. It's not a national championship.
Yeah, there's so many. Everybody makes up their own cups these days. I swear, it's it's like really where's the best of the best, and we have go to Seattle, Seattle Crossfire. They have their own, and I mean all these different tournaments and showcases, and yeah, I mean it's tough to find. It's definitely not like how it was back in the old day. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, I played high school, I played club, and I traveled outside of Oregon to Washington during the summer just to play club up there in the summertime, just because the soccer was so much better. I felt like I got more developed up there than I did down here. And I feel like Oregon's sometimes a little bit behind the times compared to Washington and California. My daughter played on the Thorns Thorns DA team for a while. I pulled her off the team.
Another problem they're having is even DA. They would, because now they're doing MLS teams are playing in the DA with their youth academies. There was a team from Crossfire that won their division, and then they got pushed down to the second tier because the MLS Academy, who they beat like 4-0, wasn't allowed to be in the second tier. They had agreements that they had to be in the first tier. They couldn't be second tier. So it's that crap that's happening that's really causing this problem, because it's all about it, and that's how we are. It's all about what Instagram posts you can put up. Look who I play for. Yep. And it's a fake identity. It's fake. Social media is not real. And that's the world we live in. We're living in false narratives of soccer here. I think true competition can fix it, because you have a thought process on how you want to develop players. I have a thought process of how I want to develop players. Let us all compete. Yeah. Let's us compete and let us try to do it. But they have all these rules like, oh, you can't be a club because you have to have 10 teams in your club to be a real club. No. And why can't I just have one team and go pick a fight? I mean, yeah. I'd rather do it that way.
Yeah. I mean, we had a DA boys team here at our club, and I think it only lasted maybe a season and a half. And then they yanked it away from us because I think our DA team wasn't producing. So they're like, yank it. And so we don't have the DA here anymore. And so if you want to do any kind of like DA, you have to go to like Portland and some of the bigger cities, which the only big city is Portland. And we also have, the girls side of it is only Thorns. It's the Thorns DA team, which is not even really a DA team. It's just their club team, which, that I find interesting because they don't allow you to do anything. You can't play any other sports. You can't, you can play basketball or anything, but you can't play like high school soccer and some of those things. And, I guess I get to a certain point why they don't want you to, because they really want you to concentrate on there, but
they're not. And if they were, they'd be better. I went to Reach 11. It's our biggest soccer complex in Phoenix, I think. It is. And I was at the ECNL event. It was like the national ECNL event. And there, I kid you not, there's, I think 12 national team coaches there. I mean, they're just so many recruiters and all that. They're all wearing their garb. And I was invited to go watch a girl that used to play for me at Millennium High School that moved to Colorado, and she was playing for an ECNL team there. And I'm watching it, and she looks so much worse. Just like couldn't touch the ball. I mean, it was a train wreck. Like everything was like a car crash. It just two girls running to each other full speed. And the times they were able to connect passes, there's no thought. It would just move the ball. They moved it in, they played it to the 6, they dropped it to the 4, they moved out wide because it was on and there was no pressure. But anytime there was pressure, they could not get out of it because it was out of the skeleton drill they worked on. There's no creativity. There's no thought process. They're not allowed to. And you just hear these coaches, telling them exactly what to do, like the joysticking the whole game. And
they're dictating the play of the game. And I mean, I've had parents ask me, there's like, hey, I hear you on the sidelines, but you're not like some of the other coaches where you're yelling. I'm like, why do I need to yell at them? There's times where I'm going to say something and I'm going to point out certain things, but for the most part, I mean, they have to come up with their own creativity. They have to come up with their own individuality on how to play. I've given them the tools, but they also need to be themselves and figure out how to do that out on the field without me telling them, you go here, you go here, you go here, you go here, you go here. I mean, it's just pointless.
Yeah. So right now I'm networking with, I have a podcast I did with the director of coaching for FC Batavia, Rick Tillmans, which is someone that is about developing players. And he's same kind of thought process that we're going through here in our conversation. And then there's coaches like Milos Tomic. There's a good friend of mine that he's all about development. There's a lot of, there's a group of people that want to play the right way. Diego Sanchez, this Brazilian from RSL. I'm not going to say RSL is a great club, but there's coaches in there that are really good that actually have a belief system. Yeah. I'm not a fan of organizations. I'm a fan of people. Organizations, in my opinion, just screw it up because the ones on top are just trying to make sure their budgets match versus, coaches actually develop. So we're getting together and we're trying to create a group of people that, we're going to do like play dates together. So like in Phoenix, we're going to do some play dates that we're playing like 6v6, 4v4, or whatever we're going to do, 8v8. But with people we know want to play the right way, because you enter tournaments, you don't have any clue who you're going to play against. Yeah. And if you play against these certain teams that are not about development and they're about screaming rah, rah, rah with the parents right behind them going even crazier, it's not a fun environment. I don't want to be near those people. Those people make me sick to my stomach, and I want nothing to do with them. And I fight with them nonstop. Like I get in so much trouble all the time. I was just at a game yesterday with my son who plays on Pachuca Tuzos. It's all Hispanic team except him. And I haven't been there in a while, and I show up and I saw some of my Mexican parents, and they're like, "Are we going to play good enough for you today?" Kind of like giving me like, "Are we going to be okay for you today?" I'm like, "I don't know, we'll see." And I told the kids, I'm like, "Are we going to be Mexican, or are we going to be like the Gilbert Soccer Club, which is an all-white club that just kick and run and hope kind of thing." So, and they played a weaker team, but they played beautiful soccer. And then the parents are like, "Was that good enough?" I'm like, "Yes, it's better." But it's kind of that kind of awkwardness. But if it was ugly, I throw a fit. Especially if the parents are saying stuff like, celebrating like them kicking the ball down, because they have some talent up front. They just can outrun everybody and they use it. But sometimes they use it way too much, and then it bypasses 8 other players that would like to play and develop their game, and they're not allowed to develop their game. So I get ticked since my son's one of them gets bypassed being the center mid. I want the ball to move. I want them to get better. I want them to deal with the situation. So yeah, I'm always fighting. But that's why I'm hardly out there, because I can't control myself. But
I've learned to control. I don't say a single thing usually on the sidelines at all. Like when I'm watching my kids play, I'm just like, I let them play. I let the coach do what they need to do, because I don't want to confuse them any more than what the coach is trying to teach them, even though that can be really hard, because I've been in a process where one of the coaches was all about a specific style, and it was dictate where you go the entire time. And then when they were losing, it was complete shutdown on the coach. He didn't
Yeah.
have anything to say. I'm like, no, man. Like, so you're just in it to win it. And because they're not doing good, you're going to shut down. This is the time that they need you the most.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a process, but what I would encourage you to do is you find as many people have same beliefs as you do, that coach, and create. I mean, I'll have Phoenix is huge, so it's easier for me, but create play dates with the people that have same ideals you do, and play against them. And it doesn't have to be just pickup.
Yeah.
You know,
Little friendly games.
Yeah, as much as you can, because those are the people you have to work with, and I just don't want to be around the others that I can't stand. There's a lot of confusion on how development works, but yeah, I can't be with those people. They
I
kill
get
me.
it. I
Yeah,
I got a question. What about do you guys have a Corber over there in Phoenix?
we do.
So what do you think of, where we start off with our kids and they have 4v4, 7v7, 9v9. So let's say they start off, 3v3, then they go to like 4v4 and 7v7s, where you implement, let's just hypothetically, let's say you implement Corber for 3 to 4 seasons where that's all they do. And then on Saturdays and Sundays, they go out and they don't really have a league game, but they just go out and they work on what the basic skills are: the 1v1s, the 1v2s, the 2v2s, the 3v3s, and teaching that at such a young age, teaching them all about the skills. And then as they get into like that pre-comp, then that's where they start really learning how to do more of the technical or the tactical side of things. And then as you get into the older group, then you're not so worried about, wow, you have no idea how to pass a ball and you can't even receive a ball. And hey, what's a number 10's job? Well, what's a number 10? Are you kidding me? Do you not know what the 10 is?
Yeah,
What do you think about that?
it's complicated because there's just so many ways to do it. There's no right way or wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
That when I coached 96 Hammers, we were not good enough. There are a bunch of players that got cut basically from the first team, whatever. We dribbled. We trained 4 days a week, 2 hours a night, and all we did is dribble and 1v1, 2v1. The goal was, can they handle the ball and escape pressure in a 1v3 situation in a 5x5 box? That was what I said over and over and over again. And I had parents nonstop. When can we work on this? When we work on that? I'm like, until they're not scared to have the ball anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to fight that fight forever. And then on the weekend when we played, say we had a tournament, we had say 3-4 games on the weekend, I would use the hour warm up for tactical, where I would show them this is the space we do versus a typical warm up and stuff. We'd work on tactics. That was the time frame. So I was just trying to maximize my time based on what I had. Yeah. We were doing 8 hours of dribbling a week. And then on the weekend, we would have, if we had one game, we had an hour of tactical development. If we had 3, we had 3 hours of tactical development plus the game itself. The game is, in my opinion, the most important part of it, because they can dribble at home and all that stuff. But the game environment's different because you have the pressure of a referee, pressure of winning and a loss. That is huge. So I would focus on, and I can send you an email of my belief system of how I develop players. So I do it in 3 stages, based on, so on stage 1, I had rules within our team. I said, every time you receive the ball, and I want them to take a touch versus have possession. That's next stage. Yeah. You had to take a touch, you had to look up and you had to make a decision. And the decision had to be on 100% certainty law, where it has to go to your team. I don't care what direction, it has to go to your team. So that player has an opportunity to trap the ball under pressure and go through that process. Everyone has to develop as a team. So everyone has to touch the ball as many times as possible. And then I would always say, hey, if you have the ball and you can get rid of it early, get rid of it early so your teammate can have an opportunity to feel what the ball is like. You can have bad technique but not be scared, and you can survive that way.
Yeah.
So I would I would really focus on making sure everyone got mass reps. I would have parents on the sideline recording how many times their child touched the ball. And then if it was positive or negative, meaning positive was to our team or negative it was to the other team. And then we would rank them. And then we would have data. I'm like, okay, so-and-so only touched the ball 5 times. That's not good. They didn't get better. Someone won't touch the ball. Someone will have 0 successes based on who they're playing with. So I went through that process of as soon as we were able to keep the ball 10 to 15 consecutive times in a row, we would move on to stage 2. That 10 to 15 times, we would go backwards a lot because that was the easiest pass to make because they're defending the goal. So then stage 2 would be take a touch, look up, and go forward. Find passes forward. If you can't find the pass forward, then you go backwards. And then we develop into stage 3. Stage 3 would be every time you're in possession of the ball, meaning you just have it. You can play one-touch soccer now. And every individual was in different stage of everything. So some players I would have on stage 1, some players would be in stage 2, some players would be in stage 3, and we rank them that way. And then if the players are able to touch the ball in a real game, real pressure, a referee, crazy parents on the sideline, and handle the ball and be able to not be scared of having it, at the same time developing technique, you can teach tactics and everything on the weekend. It's just the biggest problem I had doing that was the opposition, the way they behaved, the way they acted, and the way they would say things about me. Oh, they're just, let's man mark them and all this stuff. And they would just do stupid things versus try to develop. So that's why I say do those things, but you got to play against people that at least support with what you're doing because everyone's in a different situation in their development. I think the game is number 1. And because the game is so destructive, that's why our players suck today. They're scared to have the ball because they're going to get yelled at. They're going to be told what to do, and it's always going to be someone's fault. But at the same time, the game is number 1. And if we can have that mentality of allow the kids to develop that way, and as a coach, I stopped calling myself coach. I started calling myself manager because I was constantly dealing with the parents. I was dealing with the opposition. I was dealing with all the other things to make sure it was a safe environment for my kids to play. And it's just crazy. Like I remember one time with my son's 06 boys team, we were decent, but sometimes we were really, really good. Under the same parameters I always teach. And we were playing a team and we were just on. I mean, we looked like we shouldn't have been in the second flight, wherever we were in. And we just crushed this team, crushed. But I don't mind running up the score. And I knew who it was. And he was encouraging it, but we were playing the ball. Yeah, I mean, we had the ball. We were just on. And everything, we were 10 to 20 consecutive passes, one-touch passes all over the place. I just was in awe. Then I had some parents yell at their kids for embarrassing the other team. And then I had to go deal with that. I'm like, how dare you do that? You should be applauding it. We were getting crushed, a couple of weeks ago before that by 8-9 goals. And that's okay. It's just how many times we can't handle pressure of the ball and stop worrying about what the opposition feels. There's one thing of running up the score and you're just banging it forward and stuff. But if you're, and it was 8v8, it's a small field.
Yeah.
And so you're always in a tough situation of battling everything. So I almost quit after because the parents were upset at me. And I'm like, and I had to meet with the parents and all this stuff. I'm like, this is why I hate doing what we do. We finally are playing beautiful soccer and you want to rob them. You want to rob them of it. It was crazy. And they said that their kids were smiling. I'm like, yeah, they were happy. Leave them alone. So it's a tough thing to do. I mean, it's a tough thing to balance, but even when you get your team, and you'll notice that with your team, if you constantly focus on every individual developing, there'll be times where they're all just on you just play the most amazing soccer ever, but you embrace it. You don't destroy it.
You look at it like, oh my gosh, like that was a beautiful thing to see. I mean, we did a tournament at the beginning before our actual league play. and it was a showcase tournament, and I entered them into the silver bracket because there was only gold and silver, and this team is more of that lower level. But so I entered them in, one of the girls that get that kind of that style of, you know, competition, and let them get seen for the ones that are trying to maybe get to college. And I literally had, it's 11v11, and I had 10 show up because it was on a Sunday. Some don't show up on a Sunday because of religious purposes, so whatever. But then I had one player who forgot her boots, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So this was a really good team. We started off, and in the first 10, 15 minutes, I think we played 30 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. I mean, they were already up 4-0, like nothing. I mean, I started off actually with, I started off with 10 on the field. So I told him, I'm like, hey, you need to look at it as one of our players got a red card and we're down a player. So we still have to know how to play with 10 players on the field. But all they thought about was, oh my gosh, we're getting throttled, we're getting handled. Halftime comes around, and it is it's 4-0 still. And I do my speech, and I'm like, ladies, I'm like, hey, I go, are we gonna win? Are we gonna win? They're like, probably not, coach. I'm like, yeah, we're definitely not gonna win right now. I'm like, we're at 9 or 10 players. And then my other girl finally got a pair of sneakers that they allowed her to come out and play. So that gave us 11 with no subs. And I go, look over in the sidelines. Tell me how many college coaches you see over there. And they're looking over there, and they're like, oh, we only see parents that we know. I'm like, exactly. I'm like, don't even worry about it. I go, how about let's do this? Let's go out and work on the things that we worked on in practice. Let's develop that way. There's only a few parents actually were over there, not a whole lot. The girls go out after a speech, and I'm like, we're not winning, but we're done. Okay. Let's go out and develop. Now let's go out and let's keep that ball. Let's look at changing point of attack. Let's look at moving the ball left to right. And let's keep the ball, and let's try to build up into the middle third. Let's just keep the ball. Don't even, unless opportunity presents itself that you can go forward and you have that ability and you think you're going to score, then go for it. But hey, let's just keep the ball. So the girls go out there, and I told them too, I was like, and I want you to have fun. I know it's going to be hard, but just have fun. Think about it when you were that little kid where you started off in soccer and all you thought about was just playing and going out there and having fun with your friends. So they go out there, and next thing you know, they're talking. They are laughing on the field right in the middle of the game. They're laughing and talking to each other. We ended up keeping the ball the entire time. They only got one more goal, which was a goal that I'm not going to take away from them because it was a phenomenal goal. It was off of a corner, and the girl headed it in. Beautiful goal. The other goals could have been something we could have not had if we just played a little bit differently on how we challenged them. But for the most part, we literally got throttled. So it ended up being like, I think 5-0. And at the end of the game, whistle blows. The girls are smiling. They're laughing. They went over and shook their hands. They came off. We went to do our little end of the team talk, and they were all happy. I mean, I've never seen them so happy before in my life because they went out and had fun. They weren't going to win. They knew that, and so they took out that whole win mentality, and then they went and we talked about, let's just develop, and when we do this, results will happen. And so we held them all the way in the second half till, like, I think it was about a minute left in the game where they got a corner kick and scored. But we held them for a full 30 minutes, 29 minutes without them. And then they started fouling. We started getting free kicks. We spent more time on in their buildup of their half than they did at our end, where we, in the beginning, spent all of our time down in our defending third. No, they didn't even spend time down there.
Yeah. So and that's what's hard to do, is finding ways to be a little more creative about players that you can develop at any time. It just, I always try to with the youth to get them to focus on their individual progression. And like I had this like 100 pass club, and then we get them a shirt, 1,000 pass club, and we try to be creative and have them focus on those benchmarks versus winning, because winning, especially when they're young, it really destroys them. It serves very few people, and typically it's, like you said earlier, it's the coach that gets the service of it. But Greg, we're running out of time, and I got another recruit coming in, but that's how we got interrupted the first time early this morning. But no, I appreciate your time, Greg Bennett, and best of luck to you and your fight. How long you been coaching now? Like
almost 9 years now.
So 9 years. Yeah. I pretty much 21 years, I became very cynical and I won't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I coach, but it just, youth soccer's, it's hard to get back to. So,
it is.
I'll get back into it eventually, but right now I'm having a hard time. But keep up the fight, and hopefully you can change the game in your little area that you're in. And if we get enough of people trying to change the game, maybe something can happen, because you can't wait on U.S. Soccer, because they're not going to do anything for you.
Yeah, so just need to keep plucking away, and like you said, have that mentality, have those good coaches that want to have that same thing. So, hey, I appreciate you hitting me up and stuff, and definitely like to future-wise maybe do some more podcasts with you. That'd be awesome. I am planning on coming down to Arizona at one point to do a tournament, so I'd love to meet up then too, for sure. But yeah, David, I appreciate it. It was awesome. I had fun.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Greg, and best of luck. I look forward to meeting you in person, and we're out.